muscular dystrophy. Now, muscular dystrophy is a group of familial disorders that cause degeneration of skeletal muscle fibers. Oh, hang on a sec. Upgrade the graphics. Yep. There are a few types of muscular dystrophy. Ones that we're going to look into are the Duchenne muscular dystrophy, Becker's muscular dystrophy, and the myotonic muscular dystrophy. Let's begin with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Now, Duchenne muscular dystrophy is an X-linked inherited disease, and it's caused by a deletion of a DNA segment or a single gene defect on the short arm of the X chromosome. So what does an X-linked inherited disease mean? Well, let's look at some genetics. In females, the sex chromosomes are the same, two X's, and so they're referred to as homogametes. Of males, they have two distinct sex chromosomes, and so they're called heterogametes. Now, if we line up the father and the mother up, we have mother with XX, homogametes, and the father with XY. Now, X-linked inherited disease means that the mutation or the deletion of the DNA segment is on the X chromosome, usually, obviously, in the woman, because the women have two X chromosomes. But this does not mean the female has the muscular dystrophy. She can be the carrier, and the male is healthy in this case. So now if we do some cross sections, we have the defected X sex chromosome from the mother and the X chromosome from the father, making a female, and again another female, but a healthy one. And then we have the mutated X from the mother again, this time with the Y chromosome of the father, making a male, and another male, XY here. So as you can see, we have two of the mutated X chromosomes. One will be female and one will be male. And essentially there's a 25% chance of these, each of this happening. So if we look at the offspring, this partner will potentially have, most likely, two males and two females. And as we've seen, the mutated X and a healthy X from the father will form a female. But this female does not have to have the muscular dystrophy. She can be a potential carrier because there's a 25% chance of becoming a carrier. And this typically happens in females. And we also have another unaffected female, a healthy female. And here as well we have XY, a male, and an unaffected male. And finally, this X and Y with the mutated X from the mother can possibly have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I hope you understood that. If not, just look over it again. I hope you can. So, what is Duchenne? Now let's look at it in more detail. Shall we? I hope I'm pronouncing it right also. Hey. So, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD. Now, it is the most common form of muscular dystrophy. And in the world, 1 out of 3,500 males from birth are affected. And it clinically manifests 5 years of age or under. And it will eventually lead to the wheelchair dependence, unfortunately, by the age of 10 to 12 years old. Some symptoms associated with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's typically muscle degeneration. We can see thin, weak thighs, we can see tiptoeing, we can see weak stomach muscles which protrudes the stomach out. We see shoulders and arms held back awkwardly because of the weakness around that area. We have the swayed back to compensate, and we have the weak butt muscles pushing the belly out even further. We have thick calves, however not muscular calves. They mostly consist of fat. So they're pseudo-hypertrophied. I think that's a word. And we also have tightness on the Achilles tendon and also weak front leg muscles, which contributes to the tiptoeing. And also Duchenne muscular dystrophy sufferers have poor balance. They're usually clumsy, and when they're children, they always fall over usually. And there's also awkward walking seen in these sufferers. So let's look at the pathophysiology and look into what's happening in these muscles, the skeletal muscles. Well, in the skeletal muscles, there's actually found to be a lack of a protein called dystrophin. And this contributes to muscular dystrophy of Duchenne. So if we look at a Duchenne muscle and compare it with a normal muscle, let's look at the normal muscle first. Here we have the nucleus of a cell, muscle cell, and here we have the cell membrane. We have the DNA. DNA encodes for RNA. The RNA gets transferred to the cytosol and then codes by the ribosome for the protein dystrophin. Now, if we zoom into here, we'll look at what dystrophin actually does in the muscle cells. So here we have the cell membrane. Here, outside the cell membrane, we have a lot of calcium, and we have also proteins in the cell membrane. So here is a membrane, also called the sarcolemma. And here are some proteins, also known as glycoproteins, which connects with the outside. Now, dystrophin, essentially what it does is it anchors and interacts with these proteins to support the whole membrane structure and the connection between the inside of the cell to the outside. And that was for normal skeletal muscle. Now, in Duchenne muscular dystrophy, there's a problem in the DNA, and it codes still for some form of RNA. But when it gets transferred to the cytosol, it will essentially make a demented or bad dystrophin, which basically does not have any particular function. So essentially, if we zoom into the same structure we had, here's a cell membrane, and here are the proteins, you can see that the cell membrane is damaged, and the protein as well damaged, because dystrophin doesn't anchor this whole structure. And so the membrane forms gaps, which allows the calcium ions, which are usually on the outside, to come inside. And this influx of calcium ion causes the cell to die, causes necrosis of the muscle cells, and so muscular dystrophy, or in this case, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So we just looked at Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Now, Becker's muscular dystrophy is the same as Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but it's less severe and has a slower progression. Now for myotonic muscular dystrophy. Now, myotonic muscular dystrophy. Now, myotonic, what does it mean? Well, let's break it down. Myotonia means sustained contraction of the muscle. Dystrophy, as we know, is progressive loss of skeletal muscle. But actually, dystrophy can mean any type of muscle being degenerated. And myotonic dystrophy is an autosomal dominant trait. So if we look at a molecular level and look at the DNA, there's a specific sequence in the DNA that predisposes the person to this type of disease. So myotonic dystrophy is associated with a CTG trinucleotide repeat expansion on chromosome number 19. So essentially, if the chromosome number 19 have a lot of CTG sequences, it predisposes the person, or the person is most likely to have this form of dystrophy. Myotonic dystrophy is the most common form of muscular dystrophy in adults. And if you remember, the Duchenne muscular dystrophy is usually common in children. Now, myotonic muscular dystrophy, essentially you have the symptom of sustained involuntary contraction. So for example, if you shake someone's hand, there's difficulty in releasing the grip. This is because the muscle in your hands are still contracting, and so it takes a while for this contraction to disappear. Other associated symptoms with myotonic dystrophy: the sufferer may have a prominent forehead, a narrow face, baldness, cataract formation in the eyes, and a poorly developed chin. Myotonic and Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and as well as any other type of muscular dystrophy, can get very serious, extremely serious and life-threatening when there's difficulty in swallowing and difficulty in breathing. As of yet, there is no cure for muscular dystrophy, and it's such a serious condition. But there are a lot of foundations out there that try to find a cure. And so supporting these foundations would mean